going on, guys? I got a 2007 Yamaha Yz250f in the garage today. This bike's not locked up, but something's going on with the motor. If you try to kick it over, it kind of wants to hang up or drag a little bit. Just something doesn't feel right. It could be something simple. I'm hoping it could be something with the kickstart mechanism, or maybe the cam chain is way too tight. That's possible. I've seen it happen before, but more than likely it's going to be a bad crank bearing, bad main bearings. It's going to be it's just something dragging or hanging up, and I'm hoping that it's not a big deal, but we'll see in a minute. Right now your guess is as good as mine. Gonna pull that motor, tear into it, see what's going on. As far as the externals, the cosmetics of the bike, we got some graphics here that are great for if you want to ride dirt bikes and simultaneously worship Satan, I guess. Really creepy. I'm going to tear those off before they haunt my soul and dreams. I got a couple of counterfeit ASV levers straight off a boat from China. Pretty odd master cylinder here. That's loose. I haven't seen a master cylinder like that before. Some really terribly powder coated components on this side that we'll take off and re-powder coat, because that's disastrous. But otherwise, all the bearings on this bike are good. The tires are good. The suspension is good. A lot of people like this suspension, the KYB Triple S, from 06 upwards on the YZs. But yeah, we'll get it running again, make it a good bike, and you can just kind of follow me along as I tear into this motor and unravel the mystery. Let's get started. Okay, so I got the top end pretty exposed, got the tank and seat off, and the motor mounts off, but probably at the end of that little segment, just then you could tell that I was struggling to pull off the stupid spark plug coil. I've worked on a lot of bikes, never ever had a spark plug coil not come out. That's full force. I'm about to pick the whole bike up off the stand by this thing. I'm not sure what's going on, so give me just a minute, maybe I'll figure that out. Okay, I managed to get it out. I don't know why it was stuck. No rhyme or reason, but it was stuck really well. When I pulled it off, I felt like I broke every bone in my hand. Slammed it on the frame so hard. So let's see if we can wiggle this valve cover off and take a little peek-see and see what's going on. Everything on this bike so far has been really, really tight. The spark plug did not want to come out. The coil did not want to come out. The bolts holding the valve cover on were torqued down way too hard. And now this doesn't want to come off. So hopefully the whole build doesn't go this way, because we'll never get done. Oh, okay, this doesn't. There we go. There we go. All right, let's see what we see. Okay. Walk to the other side here. So first things first, let's check the timing chain. And that feels fine, actually. So it wasn't that the timing chain was too tight. So that kind of sucks for me. However, everything up here looks good, but it looks kind of dry. Maybe not. Maybe it's not too dry. But yeah, I'll turn it over, by hand later, you know, when we're done here, and make sure that oil is getting pumped to the head. There's a way that you can do that on the YZ. You know, when the bike is running, if you want to make sure that you're actually getting oil to the head, that the oil pump is working correctly. When it's running, you can pull this little 8mm bolt. You don't have to take it all the way out. If you just crack it and back it out maybe a half turn, it'll start to weep oil there. And if it doesn't do that, that's how you know your oil pump is not working and you're not getting getting oil to the head. So we'll test that later. It looks a little dry now, but I think it's just because it hasn't ran in so long. So yeah, everything looks clean though, so we'll keep digging. Okay, so one thing I didn't notice a second ago is that right off the bat the motor's badly timed. I don't think it jumped timing because the cam chain seems to be tight enough. So it makes me think somebody didn't know what they're doing, which is kind of scary for the rest of the motor. But we have the intake cam here, and all of the tick marks are lining up. But the exhaust cam is off by about 2 teeth. I've got my plugs removed right here on the bottom end. I'm gonna, you know, verify that everything lines up. I'm gonna retime the motor and see if it turns over any more smoothly. I don't think that it will because it's not the normal feel. Usually if this is timed a little bit too off, it can make it feel like the compression is too hard, but it's still smooth. This seems like something's grinding, so I don't think that's gonna fix our issue, but we'll start with that. Alrighty, so I went ahead and pulled both cams, and you know, everything looked good. Let me grab one of the cams. There's no wear whatsoever on the cam journals or the cam itself. Everything looks fine on intake and exhaust side, but I may have found the issue. I hope this is all it is, because everything in the head looks great. I mean, all the buckets look really good. They're not scored up or anything. I was wrong. It's not dry either. There is some oil in here. But the cam chain is so rigid, you can make like ghost cams. You can just leave it up and it won't fall down into the motor. So it feels really brittle and kinked up. So I'm hoping that's our issue. And how I'm going to test that is I'm just going to go ahead and pull this cam chain out. I've got the spark plug out right now, and we'll take this cover off, pull the cam chain, take the flywheel out, and then turn it over by hand and see if that makes it smooth. So let's keep going. All right, so I got some bad news for me. I went ahead and pulled the flywheel with my flywheel puller. I removed the stator cover, obviously. And I pulled the chain out, and guess what, guys? We are still locking up. So yeah, I got a little too optimistic, too excited, hoping that it was just a timing chain. I should have known better. So I'm gonna set the camera up, do a little time lapse of me tearing the motor down from the top down while it's still in the bike. And if I don't see that the issue's somewhere in the top end, which I don't think it will be, I think it's gonna be the crank. Then I'll pull the bottom end out. We'll put it on the bench and get to work. All right, let's go. Okay guys, got the cylinder head off, and as I suspected, it's not an issue with the head. A little bit of carbon buildup, but it all looks good. No issues with the valves or seats or buckets or anything. So next thing to look at was the piston and cylinder, and it's really dark. I know you probably can't see this, but the cylinder walls look fine. I can still see cross hatching all the way around. The piston, same thing, a little bit of carbon buildup, but otherwise it's fine. We'll clean it up some and And the rings, I'm sure they'll be good as well. I don't think it's an issue with the top end. I'll inspect it all, but I pretty much guarantee it's going to be the crank. So we'll keep digging. I do have main bearings for this case also, so I'll probably swap those out as well. But yeah, we'll keep digging into it. This just keeps getting worse and worse. Hoping for a timing chain, and then, you know, maybe the clutch was hanging up or something like that. But it's going to be the stupid crank yet again. So yeah, let's keep digging. All right, just like I suspected, it's the rod bearing. You know, this turns over smooth because it's moving the whole crank, but the rod won't move independently from the crank unless I force it. So it's the rod bearing. So I'm either gonna rebuild this crank or just see if I can find a good deal on a new one. So yeah, here we go again, another huge job, splitting the cases and whole gasket set, whole bottom end rebuild. So it's just great. Oh well, let's keep going.